The phones are listening to you always.
I know.
We are being monitored and listened to.
Okay, I found this on the web.
But dude, I have this disabled on my phone. Government officials that we have, they're not running anything. I would go in the direction of the abolishment of the system. It's all propaganda and it's all rhetoric. I'm here with my very good friend, Allie. Allie Lovegood, the one and only. Red dress, blonde hair. You missed out on the blue eyes. Unfortunately, you were so close.
I have blue eyes.
Do you really?
Yeah. They're like sapphire blue.
And I want to take this opportunity to talk to you about a couple of things. I feel like you and I have, what's the word? We have a similarity in a lot of different viewpoints. We also have a lot of similarities in life experience. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up first was I think a lot of people are dealing with is trauma. Mm-hmm. And also to get a little bit more deeper into what you're doing and your narrative, which is that you're doing breathwork.
Yep.
Right? Could you explain a little bit more about your breathwork process? Because you're teaching it. Mm-hmm. You can also certify people.
I certify students, yes.
Right, in the breathwork. And the breathwork that you're doing is, I mean, I've done it with you before. It's similar to the Wim Hof method.
Very similar. It's
similar to because I think most people will be familiar with that Wim Hof method of breathing. But it's similar, but it's not just about the physical aspect of the breathing and what the effect of that is on a physical level. But your breath work is more geared towards releasing trauma and creating circuitry.
Being in the present moment is basically what I focus on. So releasing stored trauma in the body and then being in the present moment, because a lot of people live in the past or they live in the future. So if you're living in the past, people say that you're depressed, right? And if you're living in the future, you're anxious. That's what a lot of people will relate those two to. A lot of people don't live in the present moment to the point where you can just be and experience life and enjoy life.
I feel like you got into doing the breath work as a way to help you deal with your own trauma.
I did.
Right? And it became a system for you that you used, and you were like, oh, this works for me. Maybe I can share this with other people, and actually you enjoy it enough to the degree that you built a business around that.
Correct.
Where you're giving lectures, you're giving classes, you're also certifying people, you're doing actually retreats too, right?
I will be,
I think I've heard you talk about that before.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I find super interesting about trauma is that, there's two ways of looking at trauma from my perspective, because I've been through trauma. Both of us grew up in abusive homes. We both have been through very difficult things, from childhood upward. And one of the things that I think that people have a really difficult time doing, and when people ask me about my trauma or try to associate things that I do with trauma, I explain to them very clearly that the way that I deal with my trauma is that I don't look at it as traumatic. So you can look at your trauma as a traumatic situation, and then it affects you in a negative way until you get to the place where you realize that the trauma actually is a tool. It's a device to actually help you grow and educate you to some degree. Now, it may be traumatic, but at the same time, if you don't focus on the trauma of the moment, you can actually take that traumatic experience and turn it into something that's self-serving.
Right.
So I think that that's really the goal with trauma. People who are going through trauma and victimize themselves till the end of their lives, a lot of the time. The thing that they missed was that they didn't understand that, number one, the world that we live in and the life that we have is to some degree an illusion, right? It's over. It could be over tomorrow.
Right.
It could be over in 30 seconds. We don't have control over the duration of our life, but we do have control over the decisions that we make and how we choose to live. And one of these things that people are dealing with quite frequently is trauma. And I would say that whenever I talk to somebody and we get into the idea of like my childhood, I don't know how comfortable you feel about talking about
That's
that.
fine.
But my childhood was traumatic on several levels. I was physically abused, I was mentally abused, and I was emotionally abused. In very creative ways too. But the thing that happened was because of my independence and because I had to figure out things for myself, I didn't really have time to process that.
Right.
I didn't never had time to like really sit down and be like, how did that affect me, and what did that do to me on X, Y, and Z levels? It wasn't until like my mid to late 20s that I actually started to figure that stuff out. And once I really got deep into there, because I think the first thing people like to do is they try to be like, oh, I'm over it, right? It's not there. So to wash it away or bury it underneath the rug, I think is a very common narrative where someone's going to just pretend that something never happened.
Right.
What do you think about that? Like, it's hard. It's hard because if someone's saying like I'm over it, they really think that too.
They do think that, but there's no way that the body has released it, because if you are over it, the body has released it on a physiological level. Like on an energetic level, it's literally left without the body. In traditional Chinese medicine, they teach you that certain emotions are stored within the body. So like grief will be trapped in the lungs, fear is in the kidneys, and you have a lot of anger will be trapped in the liver. So if you have let's just say trauma is always associated with an emotion, right? So if you have a lot of anger, you're going to have a lot of pain right here, and your liver may not function properly because energetically it's just bombarded constantly. So 90% of the thoughts that we have is the thoughts that we had the day before. So if you are constantly living in the past and you are so angry, not only are you creating more trauma within the body, but you are overloading your liver so much to the point where it just cannot function properly. And then other symptoms physically happen within the body. So you may have like digestive issues, you may have like eating problems, and that all affects your mental state.
I think that one of the things that I've run into again in my whole life is that whenever I'm sitting down with somebody who considers themselves to be a therapist or a spiritualist or a mentor or teacher, guru, whatever it is, they typically like to, because I really don't mind sharing anything. I can't think of any secrets that I have that I wouldn't be willing to share with somebody. Like anything. I can't really think of anything that I'm like, that's off the table. I'm going to keep that to myself. So when I sit down with somebody and I talk very openly and I talk very expressively and freely. Like for me to talk about things is just talking about things, and I don't take things as personally and as sensitively as a lot of people do. And I think that one of the things that we run into is people trying to associate things with trauma.
They do.
Right? Which is an easy way to explain things. The reason that you're like this is because you have trauma. The reason that you do this is because of trauma. And everything winds up becoming about trauma. Again, in that circle of people who are advisors or leaders or gurus or whatever it is. And then you run into people that, like yourself, who are, one, working on releasing your own trauma, right? And in the process, bringing other people into the fold as a group effort. And I think that one of the mistakes that people tend to make is to think that you, as the teacher of that, or you leading the pack, that you don't have any trauma to deal with, or that you're trying to insinuate that you don't have any trauma to deal with. And so then when traumatic things come from you, all of a sudden you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
So do you think that it's important to express to people, because I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people who get into positions where they're teaching or leading or X, Y, and Z, they don't really disclose that they're dealing with their own issues. They try to make it seem like they've got it together.
They do.
And that's falsity.
And it's a very dangerous field if you really think about it. So like healing happens in layers. It's like in an onion, right? So you may have a huge healing experience and then be really good for a long time. And you are able to be into a mindset where you can help a lot of people and talk about like the release that you had, or like the breakthrough that you had. But then there's another layer underneath that. And that's going to come 6 months, 2 months, maybe even 2 years later. It just depends on like where you're at and how proactive that you are in between each set of healings, each set of layers.
Well, something that I think is really interesting in how I dealt with my trauma, because I did deal with my traumas. So when I was maybe around like 6, I think maybe 6 or 7 years old, there was the Bloody Mary thing came out.
Oh yeah.
And, I was already dealing with psychic experiences as a kid. I was seeing things, and I was very in tune with that reality that most people didn't. And then everyone says, oh, it's just a dream. You're imagining things. Stop making up things, right? And eventually what happens is you start to suppress it, and you start to suppress it, and you get to a place where you just stop talking about it completely. And then you just deal with it on your own, because there's no help for that. It's either you're crazy or delusional, or you're making it up, or it's all your imagination, right? Which is not the case. But one of the things that happened for me, because I was already dealing with that and seeing things and dealing with that, is at a very, very young age. In school, they came up with the Bloody Mary thing, where the narrative of the Bloody Mary was you go into the bathroom, you turn the lights off, and you say Bloody Mary into the mirror 3 times, and Bloody Mary appears and murders you, right? So I hear that's circulating in school. I'm like 6 or 7 at the time, and I'm like, oh my God, right? I'm like, what? Who is doing this, right? Even at 6 and 7, I had right? But I become deathly afraid of the bathroom now.
Of course.
Right? So I become afraid of the bathroom, and I don't want to go to the bathroom by myself. And so my grandmother, who was living with me at the time, who lived with us at the time and was my primary caretaker, I would make her go to the bathroom with me. Anyway, my father finds out. My mom tells my father that I won't go to the bathroom by myself, that I'm making my grandmother go to the bathroom with me. And so what my father does is he actually unscrews the light bulbs in the bathroom and locks me in the bathroom in the dark, and is outside the door saying Bloody Mary. And the result of that was me literally diving out at 6, 7 years old. I dove out of a 2nd-story window into my backyard. I didn't get that hurt. I got banged up. I got scratched up and bruised up, but I jumped out of the window. Anyway, fast forward years and years and years later, when I start studying spiritualism and I start getting more into the groove of becoming a more reasonable human being, I start to realize that I can't sleep at night without a TV. And I start to realize that I get extremely anxious in dark places and all of these things. And, I'm just chalking it up to, that's normal, right? It's normal behavior. It's normal that people are scared of the dark and things like that. And then I had that thought, is this going back to Bloody Mary with my father? And I was like, you know what? I think that it is, right? I mean, we don't make those associations because they're so widespread, they're so common, that in order to actually deal with it, you need to go back to the source of the trauma. Right? And you need to realize that did traumatize me. And now I'm dealing with the effects of that trauma because I am now afraid of the dark. And so what I wound up doing was forcing myself to sleep in dark places, or to go into dark places, or stay in dark places. And I started to get myself used to the dark. And through that motion of becoming comfortable in the dark and no longer afraid of the dark, I felt like I've released that trauma.
That's awesome.
I mean, I could go into many other different traumas that I've had, and how I eventually figured that system out for myself, which is that, people are deathly afraid of spiders. So what you would say to someone who's deathly afraid of spiders is, the way that you handle that fear is you actually put yourself in an environment that's safe enough where you become comfortable with spiders or snakes or whatever people are scared of. But one of the other things that I think is really important that you might be able to shed some light on is that when you're doing breath work and when you're actually activating the breath work, how is that helping to release trauma?
So I love this. So when you start breath work, I have everybody lay down flat, no pillow behind the head. I want the nervous system completely flat. So for the first about 5, 10, 15 minutes even, your conscious mind is constantly telling you, get up. You don't need to talk to, or you don't need to listen to this crazy lady. You don't need to breathe. We don't have to do this. We can do this another time. It's going to convince you to do any and everything to not just lay down still and breathe. So it's your conscious mind that does it. It's right here in the frontal lobe. And what happens after that 10, 15 minutes, that conscious mind turns off. It's called transient hyperfrontality. And the most beautiful thing happens because it's completely off. You are in your subconscious mind. You activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and that is where you can rest and digest. That's the point of healing. So if you are not in that parasympathetic state, your body, one, can't heal, your mind doesn't turn off, and you are not in a state of being. You're not in a state of homeostasis, as I would say.
But how does that heal trauma?
So whenever you are in a present moment and whenever your conscious mind is telling you, or whenever it's completely silent, you are able to get into a parasympathetic state and you are able to feel things. You're allowing yourself to feel things all throughout the body. So when you consciously control your breath, you may have muscles that will tense up and then release. And the reason why they tense up is because that's where trauma is stored.
So you're talking about more releasing trauma from the physical body.
It's the physical body, yeah, but it's also the emotional body too. So you have your physical body, your emotional body, and your spiritual body is what they would say. So in your emotional body, it's all trapped within your physical vessel. So whenever you have, like, say that you have a fall that you had, or like someone really tortured you, and that emotion was trapped right within your leg muscle, that may tense up really, really bad and it feels like a Charlie horse, but you continue to breathe and focus on the breath, that releases and you just have an emotional release.
Right.
And that emotional release can look like crying, laughing, giggling. It can be yawning. It could be yawning so big to the point where like your mouth can't open any bigger. Or you could just have like just a complete rest. And then you may notice that you're holding your breath. So you're consciously breathing and you just have like this almost like outer body experience because you released it.
But you still have to come to terms with the fact that you're afraid of the dark, though.
That can be more of a psychological level because that's the conscious mind. You are in the subconscious mind.
So what you're saying technically is that there's phase one, which is the release of the physical trauma that's stored in the body, but then there's also coming to terms with the effect of that trauma, which can happen with more of like my method.
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, I'm afraid of the dark because of X, Y, and Z. I'm going to force myself to become comfortable with the dark. I'm afraid of heights, so I'm going to force myself into high places. I'm claustrophobic, whatever the thing may be. Do you think that the breath work would make it easier for me, let's just say, to have dealt with the fear of the dark?
It could have allowed you to come to the realization. So breath work can actually lead you to a higher state of consciousness. And that being is like you are able to control your emotions, you are able to control your thoughts. A lot of people who overthink aren't able to control much in their life. So when somebody comes to me and says, I'm overthinking too much and I don't know what to do, I'll tell them to hum. Because if you're humming, you cannot have a thought at the same time. So I was like, if you can't get into a breathwork class tonight that I'm holding and you're, for whatever reason, hum as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about business and work ethic. One of the things that people probably don't know about you is that you actually have several debilitating things going on that you handle very well and that you deal with very well, where to the degree that someone might not even know what you're actually dealing with. Yet with those debilitating things, and I don't know if you're comfortable talking about what those things are, how are you getting yourself to the, and if you can just explain a little bit about like what the issues that you're dealing with are, and how you are not allowing that to run and rule your life to the degree that you can actually work with me.
So I was diagnosed with seizures in 2014, and the reason why I have seizures is because my cerebrospinal fluid was contaminated during a spinal tap, during a lumbar puncture. So that was whenever I had my first seizure, and I continuously had them after that.
Due to medical malpractice.
Due to medical malpractice at a military hospital. So when I was experiencing all that, I had the most amazing experiences, like
DMT kind of experiences?
Yeah, it was like I was traveling out in the most beautiful nebulas in space. Like I just felt so incredible during that time. And I just love having that feeling and that memory of those feelings and like the memories of what I used to see. Like right now you hear my voice going off is because medications for seizures are absolutely terrible. Like you can't think, your body doesn't function correctly. You're just basically like a zombie. Like your consciousness is just not where it is. Like when I was on medication for seizures, I would not be able to have conversations like this. So there was this amazing device that came out in the 1980s, it's called a vagus nerve stimulator, which is what you guys just heard. So the vagus nerve stimulator, what it does is it's a tiny little wire attached to a battery that wraps around the left vagus nerve. And I have the wire right here, like you could see it on my neck. It looks like a vein. And then the battery's right over here. So it goes off every 5 minutes to 30 seconds, which allows dopamine to be sent and released in my brain.
So if anyone ever is like hearing your voice pitch shifting, it's because the device is going off during that time, and then you just resume. So every 5 minutes you got this device that sends a frequency through your body, releasing dopamine so that you don't have seizures.
Yep.
Right. But you might not need that device anymore.
Correct. And I'm going in October to see if I absolutely do need this device. So October is my first appointment with this new neurologist, and I'm really excited.
Good for you.
I'm really excited.
Yeah. Well, I've also been pushing you.
You have.
To do this.
Yep.
Which I hope doesn't backfire terribly on me.
So I'm calling you, Chris. What did you do to me? Yeah.
What's really intriguing though is that that's not the only issue you're dealing with.
Oh no.
Like, no offense, but you're kind of a hot mess. but no one would ever know that. Like, no one would ever know that. But you, I'm not so great myself, if we're being honest. But also, again, no one would ever know that because we power through that stuff.
Yeah.
Your stuff is a little more difficult to deal with than my stuff. I'm dealing mostly with effects of torn ligaments and meniscuses and all these other issues that I have: knee, joints, hips, arthritis, things like that I'm dealing with. But I also have radiation, scarring in my face, on my head and my neck, which is like pretty brutal. I mean, I'm also don't have sinuses anymore. You see someone who's young, let's just take we have a 27, because that's like the best, right? Like 27 is like, you don't know how good you got it.
Right.
Which I remember people saying that to me when I was that age and being like, shut up.
Now.
Shut up.
Yeah.
But really, like that 24 to 27 is those are the sweetest years of your life. You need to maximize that potential. But even still, with that being said, I'm 42, you're 37, and we're running circles around 25-year-olds.
Something else too is I have a connective tissue disorder that's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And a lot of times it can slow the physical body down because you could dislocate a rib just by sneezing wrong. Or once I was 6 years old, I remember this, and I was putting on my shirt to get ready for school, and I twerked my head somehow, and I heard this huge crack, and I start feeling all this pain, and I scream, and I couldn't turn my head at all for a month and a half. But there was something that I did to my neck at one of the discs that just completely put everything out of alignment. But with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, it can slow a lot of people down, and it's really physically painful for a lot of people. But I don't allow the pain to override that. So I don't know if you have heard me. Well, you hear me breathe during the live sales to a point where I get my breath completely silent, and I feel like I'm Neo in the Matrix. I feel like that I can do any and everything because I'm controlling my breath. I'm so in this state of consciousness where I feel like I could do everything. And I think that it's most important for people to realize that they can get to that space and they are able to achieve any and everything at the same time. So say that you have 50 things going on like we do in the live sales. You can achieve that very easily by just focusing your consciousness on one thing and allowing yourself to open your mind at the same time.
The idea of working hard has become a different concept than what it used to be.
Very.
Right? I mean, working hard means something, but at the same time, I think that the idea behind that has changed drastically.
It has.
Right? Where I think old school mentality of hard work is backbreaking labor. Right? You work yourself till you're passing out, which is what I do.
And giving it all.
It's necessary for me to work like this because I've created that for myself. I've created a non-stop pace. I put the treadmill at 10 miles an hour, where I think that in the world that we live in now, when you're looking at the younger generation, they might look at that and be like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's crazy?
No, I think that's normal.
So do you think that the younger generation who might look at that kind of work and be like, dude, all you need to do is just right?
That's what they think.
Right, but that's what it's becoming.
But it's also not a reality to a point. You still have to work your ass off. Let's just say that the live sales, right? majority of the people wouldn't be able to do what we do, or they would need a whole team. It wouldn't just be me, you, Max, Gila, right? But like for the younger generation, they would be like, okay, we would need this person, this person, this person. They would need like 20 people to do a 4-person job. And that's not how things are.
Or do you have 4 people that could do a 20-person job?
Exactly.
If I was on the outside, I would think that there was like 30 employees here.
I can see that.
You know what I mean? Like if I was on the outside and didn't know anything, I would say like, this company probably needs between 20 to 30 employees, right? When the reality is we have like 7.
Yeah.
And it's still happening. The thing is that why don't I have more employees? It's not because I don't need them or that I couldn't use them. It's because what's interesting about From the Minds is that everyone here is like super introvert. People will look at me though and say, oh, you're not an introvert. You're extremely extrovert. Or they might look at some like, even though you're not directly like working here From the Minds, you are semi engaged in what's going on. I mean, but maybe like 5 times a year,
Something like that.
right? 5 times a year over the last 2 years. But at the same time, during the most difficult weeks of the year, so you're getting the full spectrum of it in a very small amount of time, but a very consolidated amount of work. What we're seeing now is a lot of people who want to start their own businesses and run their own businesses, but don't have that work ethic. And I think that this is where the trouble is coming in, and this is what you were kind of mentioning to somebody. You still need to work your ass off.
Yeah.
But people want to have their own businesses, but they don't understand even what it means to work your ass off.
Yeah. I think that a lot of people would just be like, okay, well, I'm going to go from a 9-to-5 job and then start my own business. Like when you start your own business, you're working nonstop. If you wanted to be successful, you are nonstop. Like you don't take vacations. You don't have your same sleep schedule. You don't have your same eating schedule. You have to figure all that out on your own. And there will be multiple sacrifices that need to be made in order to run your own business. Like, it's so interesting having a conversation with somebody who has a 9-to-5, because all they have to do is show up majority of the time nowadays, and in the corporate world, they show up and they still get paid. But if you run your own business and you like half-ass it, just show up, you don't get paid. You have to do everything.
Your work, your duty, your responsibility, it goes beyond boundaries of pay line. Like it's not like, oh, I'm just here to collect my check. At 5 o'clock I got to go. If you're in that mentality, I don't think you will ever find success in anything that you do. Never mind your job or career or anything. If you're counting minutes, or if you are not in a place of I'm here to give 100% effort, I think that it's going to be very difficult for a person to not just find success, but also that fulfillment.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you go into to businesses, and a lot of things are becoming what is it called? Like
automation.
Well, yeah, like a lot of things are automated.
Yeah.
You now have to check yourself out at the grocery stores and at things, and the world is going in automation. And not only that, one of the things that I think is extremely crazy is that, like, let's just say, like for me, I go to Whole Foods, and while I'm checking myself out, which I kind of prefer to check myself out because it's quicker.
Yeah.
But there's someone there watching you do it. There's literally just a person standing there watching you do the job that they should be doing.
Yeah.
And I think that this concept is really, really dangerous. And I think that it's something that's really harming us. And I said, when I first started seeing automatic checkout, I said AI is not far behind. And here we are.
Here it is.
And here we are. I knew when I first saw automated checkout, AI wasn't far behind us. And I was like, shit, this is bad news. Because the thing is that you have two sides of that spectrum of AI. Right? One side is that, it's really good, it's helpful, it expedites the process of things, but which is nice. But the harmful side of it is so scary and so harmful to the degree where, why is it that someone like me is anti-AI? What is your stance on AI?
I don't prefer it whatsoever. I
am anti.
Yeah.
Like, I am 1,000% against AI. If I find out an employee is using AI here, we're having a problem.
It's an actual problem.
No, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Because it's not a secret.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing is that my real problem with AI is that, number one, the way it was introduced to us, right, which is ChatGPT, was really the introduction, like the major
Right.
introduction of AI, which allows people to just backdoor critical thinking.
Well, going back to that, if you really think about it, like Siri, I use Siri. And my sister actually told me, she's like, Allie, you are alone a lot and you have all these medical problems. And what happens if you are home alone and like nobody's around you, nobody's coming to visit you? Like, what happens if something is major and you cannot physically get to your phone and call 911? I was like, oh. So we go through the process of setting up Siri just to call 911, just in case something ever happens.
That's a practical application.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, I don't really, for me, I'm anti-Siri. Alexa, all the things. I am not because it's bad, but because what it leads to.
Yeah.
Just as automated checkout led to Alexa and Siri, and then Siri led to AI and ChatGPT
Yeah.
and robots that they have.
Yeah.
And systems of AI that we are not privy to knowing about, which exist.
Did you see where AI now created its own language to speak to one another?
Yeah.
That to
Yeah,
me was
I'm
like,
familiar.
it gives me goosebumps. Like literally, you can see them.
The thing is what people don't really understand is that the pursuit of comfort and convenience is destructive.
It is.
And society has made that the most lucrative device that we have. Is I want comfort and convenience. Like, even if you look at fast food, it's the worst food for you, right? But it's comfort and it's convenience.
Yep.
But it is absolutely poison at the same time.
It is.
Literally poison.
If people knew that the food-like products, which is like your chips, your cookies, your processed foods, if people knew that it was actually owned and created by cigarette companies, they would really look to see, like, if they knew that information and they went down that rabbit hole. It would be very interesting to see like how quickly that they would change their diet.
When I went through cancer, I had a huge diet. I went, what was it? The medium guy,
Medical medium.
the medical medium, right?
Anthony Williams, yeah.
Yeah, right. Which, no offense to him, I read his book and I tried some of his stuff out. It seemed like hogwash to me personally. I'm not saying that it doesn't work for somebody else. It was really Dr. Berg who I found, and I was like, this guy is talking some facts. And very, very well backed up information, well researched information, and I started doing a lot of the things that he was saying in association to the issues that he was pointing out. Okay, so if you have low blood sugar, blah, blah, blah. If you have high blood pressure, blah, blah, blah. Which again, if you're not watching Dr. Berg, I highly recommend you check out Dr. Berg because his information is great. And he sells his own line of supplements and dietary supplements. I'm going off of his measurements for vitamins. So for example, like vitamin D3, right? The standard measure is not even a milligram. Like the standard, if you go to like a vitamin store and you buy vitamin D3, the capsule you're getting is probably not even a milligram's worth.
Right.
It's like probably like a quarter of a milligram or a half of a milligram, where you should be taking like around 10 milligrams of vitamin D3.
Yeah.
And then they tell us about the sun, because you can get vitamin D from the sun.
You can also get it from mushrooms.
Right.
It's the highest content.
So, but again, all of these things are, don't go in the sun, you're going to get cancer, right? And it's like, okay, like not true. But like, yeah, but spray this shit on yourself and it'll protect you from cancer. Like, and people were like, oh, sweet.
No.
Being out, if you're baking, if you're like old school Italian, like some of my uncles, they literally look like charcoal. Right? Like they just bake themselves. Like they shirtless, short shorts, and they're just like I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but like the color of their, this is bad freaking news.
Yeah.
Right? This is bad news. But if you're out in the sun for half an hour or an hour a couple times a week, I really don't see the harm. But they tell us that it's very harmful.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a way to get people sicker, to be completely honest with you.
For sure.
Because the biggest cash cow is cancer and the medical. Here in America, that's a revolving door.
Yeah.
And I think that if people realistically were able to sit back and look at it from a broader perspective, they would see that they are being manipulated heavily on so many different levels. Like as a woman, you go to a grocery store and they tell you this is what you should look like, this is what you should eat, and this is how the things that you should buy. We're constantly influenced as a woman. And no matter what you do, no matter how skinny you are, no matter how normal you are, or no matter how obese a person could be, it doesn't matter to a certain type of individual. And it's never enough for other people. And I think that what we need to do as a society is really think back of like, how can it be simple, and how are we able to get to a point where we can see things from a broader point of perspective and really know what is true.
Well, I think, you have a really good point there, because now not as much, because like a lot of people don't even go to supermarkets anymore.
Oh, I'm there every day.
Well, a lot of people don't. Like Amazon Prime,
Oh, yeah.
you just get your groceries delivered now.
Yeah.
Like you don't even need to go to a supermarket anymore to get your groceries. Someone just go get my groceries for me. And that's very common. Whenever I go into Whole Foods, there's like 20 people in there collecting groceries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very common narrative. But I feel like going back to like even when I was a teenager, like in the 90s, or like the late 90s, early 2000s, like when you went into a supermarket, you had no choice but to go past the magazines that were there. And the advertisements back then, it was so drastic about image. Mm-hmm. And you need to look and think and feel and right? Mm-hmm. But now we have social media.
Yeah.
Where before, the media system that was there, which was like, the news, the commercials, the magazines, the newspapers, all of those things were there to box us into that. Now we're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah.
So they don't even need to do that to us anymore, because, and this is really the problem that we have, is that they've lured us into this circumstance, this social situation, not just social standards, but social economics too.
Everything.
Where we're doing it to each other.
Yeah.
And when I say they, I want to be very clear about that, because we hear that all the time. They are the people that pull the strings. They are the puppeteers behind corporate business, behind the media, behind all of the things that we see. I think people think that they look at the government officials that we have, they're not running anything.
They don't.
Right? And if you don't know that by now, you are so far behind on the trail of information. Yeah. The people who run the system, they're in the shadows, wallowing in their secrets.
And they are pulling strings left and right, allowing you to think that you are making the correct choice by putting yourself and identifying yourself into a certain box. But what is that doing? It's just keeping you in the box. It's keeping you small. It's not allowing for any sort of growth. It's not allowing for any type of free will thinking, which is what we do have. And it doesn't
Which is what they've really tried to take away from us more than anything else, critical thinking and free will.
Exactly.
Freedom of speech.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Right to protest. I mean, again, if you're going back to if you're going back to the Declaration of Independence and what it says in the Declaration of Independence, which I'm going to say now, if you asked 100 people, what does the Declaration of Independence say? I'm going to say that maybe 5 to 7% of people know what the actual rights are and what the Declaration of Independence actually says.
Yeah.
That it's actually based off the Revolutionary War, and that why did we come here in the first? Who came here? Why did we come here? What did we do when we got here? Because we escaped to find liberty.
Right.
Right? The pursuit of liberty.
To have the freedom.
To find freedom, but freedom from what? Freedom from the oppression that we were being dealt on the other side of things, right? Which is where we were being forced into the narrative that we are now again living in that exact same situation.
It is.
I actually was reading about it last night. I'm a lunatic. Like you would think, like, okay, we worked till 12 o'clock last night. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm literally reading through Congress's notes and stuff. Like I am, because I want to know what they're up to. Listen to this. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security, right? And this is coming from the National Archives, by the way, which, again, explain what I just said. right?
Yeah.
They make it impossible for
They
you
do.
to understand what they're saying. But essentially, long story short, what they're saying here is that once you are being abused by your government, it is your responsibility to throw off such government. Literally, the words coming from a government archives.gov, right?
Yeah.
Literally telling us that it was our why did we come? Because it was our responsibility
Yeah.
to come here. And when we came here searching for our own freedom, we invaded the freedom of other people who were already here. We did.
We did, severely.
The question you have to really ask yourself, if you go back to the seed level of it, is that when we came here to establish that liberty, we were willing to take that liberty away from the people that we encountered here. So much so that a lot of the Native American culture literally signed agreements with Great Britain to go to war with us.
Yeah.
People don't even really understand what this means. What it means is that the people who were here were so oppressed by us when we came here that they went to our enemy and were like, yo, who are these people that you said, like, right?
Right.
And they wound up coming to an agreement,
Yeah. They have no idea.
which eventually they got screwed on, of course, right? They got totally screwed on. But at the same time, it's like, we're living in this time, in this age where they have social media. And what people don't understand about social media and what the point behind social media is to get the agenda in front of the people that you want to get it in front of. And the thing is that they've got us they've got their knee on our neck to the degree that we don't even know that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
We do not understand that that's how the programming is coming in. We really don't. And when you see now, the saddest thing is, and we're all guilty of it, like you see someone this is life now, right?
Yeah.
This is life now.
Yeah.
You go to an airport, everybody's like this. You go to a restaurant, everybody's like this. You go to the park with the kid, everyone's like
Family function, everything.
Life is now this.
Yeah.
It really is. And that was the point.
Yeah.
Not so much the content that's there. Yes, of course the content is there to pin one side against the other, right? Oh, I hate Trump, I hate Biden, right? This narrative that's there of like, you hate this, you have no idea that this is all rhetoric. It's all propaganda and it's all rhetoric.
It's the best distraction to get people not to critically think.
But it's
to hate on one another.
It's literally divisive. It's just like, okay, here's the two sides, pick one.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I always say to young people when they ask me if I vote, and I don't vote,
Yeah.
because the thing is that I don't get to select the president that I vote for, right? That's why it's called an election, not a selection, because we're just given two shitty options, and then you got to choose between the two of them. And, you know, I'm not trying to get too far into politics, but at the same time, the naivety that's there behind thinking this guy is good, this guy is bad, the naivety is so high there to think that this guy is good, this guy is bad, this one's better, this one's worse. No. Neither one of them have any control over anything. It's so bizarre that we're even having it, that this is even a topic of conversation, and it's so bizarre that people have been forced into a narrative of hating one side or the other. Like, if you consider yourself a Democrat and I consider myself a Republican, we're supposed to hate each other now.
According to society.
Right, we're supposed to.
Right.
That's bizarre.
It is.
So again, the problem is no one's reading. How many people at 12 o'clock at night are on the Library of Congress's website reading through the... Me? Just me? I'm the only one in the room? It's true.
Yeah, I know.
It's true.
I know.
But you might say, oh, you know what, I don't want to know. It's too much for me. I don't want to know. There's nothing I can do. Of course, there's nothing any of us can do because I'm the only one in the room.
Yeah.
The original system that we were given, that's based off the Declaration of Independence, actually, from the beginning, is flawed and skewed.
It is.
The thing is that there's no one paying attention to it. But if you notice in there, it says that all men are created equal, right? Look at the language there. Men, all men are created equal. Not men, when you say, oh, well, it means mankind. Well, no, humankind.
Then it would state. Yeah.
Then it would say human.
Right.
It would say people.
Right.
It says all men were created equal. And then it goes on to list Caucasian, pretty much Caucasian, right?
Yep.
African American,
Yep.
and Native American.
Yep.
That's who's on the list.
Yep.
There's a lot of people left off that list.
Many.
Again, going back to this idea, the skewed version, and we were talking about this the other night, was the problem is that, again, I don't want to go too political here, and I kind of want to wrap this up, but something that I think is really relevant in an idea that I have is I would go in the direction of the abolishment of the system. It's not working. It's not working. It never has. To the degree where the people who are the top level politicians are all trying to murder each other and steal from each other. Like that's what's going on in that back room. There's crazy conspiracy around child sex trafficking amongst that group of elites.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
You know, do I have evidence that it's happening? Do I know that for 100%? No, but where there's smoke, there's fire. Why is that such a deeply embedded narrative around those people?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the, I was in Hawaii, in Lahaina, Hawaii, a week before all those fires happened. I was in that whole area exploring. It was beautiful. There are over 500 children
Gone.
Didn't even
Zip.
register for school.
Zoop.
Those people had
Just
no help.
gone.
And what really
Insane.
I know. And what really concerns me is the sheriff of that area is the same sheriff from Las Vegas for when that shooting happened for the country concert. And I like country music, and I would go to that every single year out in Las Vegas because I lived there for over 10 years. So it's like I don't want to be like a conspiracy theorist, but like I don't think that there's such thing as a coincidence.
Dude, there's no way 5 children just disappear.
Exactly.
Gone.
Yeah.
Just vanished.
And these are over 500
Dude.
that did not register for school the
Dude,
next year.
I was going nuts about that for quite a while.
It
I still,
still eats me up.
it's still bothered. It's still
Same.
still something that we need to like really. The thing is, we're not demanding answers. The news is there, social media is there to distract us and to keep us on this ring that whatever happened last week is so far behind us.
Exactly.
Right? They do the same thing with music. They do the same thing with culture, art, everything. Everything now is rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
If you make it, there's no more hit songs anymore. There's no more art installation. I mean, it just doesn't exist anymore because everything is fodder. Rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
What's new? What's next? New. Next. New. Right. This is the narrative that we're fed. We're not cultivating culture. And what, again, going back to the point is that the system that we currently have, we need a new system.
Yeah.
One
that works.
We need a new system. And the President of the United States should have the whereabouts to say that and know that and understand that this system just doesn't work.
No.
The documents are there. Like I just read you from the archives, right? That narrative, which is literally saying that when the government comes into the position like they are now, like why we left Great Britain in the first place, was literally because the government had become so corrupt.
Yeah.
That we needed to fight against it. And then we established this country on that narrative, and now here we are being mopped.
Yeah.
Completely mopped, right? I don't support this one or that one. I think it's all lies. I think it's all propaganda.
Same.
Period. End of story. That's all it can be. That's all it can be. And then again, the thing that we can look at and we can say, what gets a president 4 years or 8 years is how much did they play ball.
Right.
And then it's really crazy when you hear the narratives, because again, for me, I don't care. I don't like this one, that one. I really don't. Genuinely for me, I don't care. I'm here reading the literature. What are the facts? What is the information that's actually being provided? Because the thing is that these rules and these laws and these standards were created by these people.
They were.
But they only serve those people.
Right.
And the thing is that if you read why is it that no one reads it? I just read you literally 2 sentences from the archives.
They make it impossible.
They make it
to understand.
impossible for it. It's not digestible reading even.
Right.
It's like you're like this right. People don't read the Bible.
Right.
You know the thing is that they make it so difficult for you to get through it. You know the translation of the Bible, like the King James version of the Bible and the new translations of these Bibles, they word it and make it in such a way that it's not a digestible read.
Right.
They really did. They really do. They make this stuff. That's why do we need lawyers?
Well, if you
Why do we need lawyers?
Well, if you think about what a lawyer really is, they are master manipulators of the law. They know it.
Why do we need...
And there's so many loopholes.
Right. The thing is that what they're saying is that I'm being accused of something, you're accusing me of something, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the idea.
Right.
We are not capable of making our own points. We need people to make the points for us.
Mm-hmm.
People who did not experience it, don't know the information. The job of a lawyer is to win,
Right.
not to tell the truth. On either side of the fence.
On either side. Right.
Nowhere in the lawyer's agenda does it say, be honest.
Yeah.
The idea of lawyers and why law was created in the first place was to protect the elites, so they can never get in trouble.
And it still does.
And it still does to this day. If you're not asking yourself, why do we need lawyers? Really, why do you need, if you did something or you did not do something, but you're being accused one way or the other, you're not capable of defending yourself, of telling your side of the story?
Yeah.
Bizarre. Absolutely bizarre. All of the things that we're experiencing here in this world are absolutely bizarre. None of it makes any sense. And here we are hating each other. We're forced into picking a side and then hating each other.
You know,
It's so bizarre.
as bad as COVID was for so many different people all around the world, it allowed us to really come together and like have compassion for one another. And I think that we need to remember that compassion.
The same thing happened after 9/11.
It did. We were humbled.
Short-lived.
Yeah, very short-lived.
Short-lived. You know, the thing that scares me is that I understand course correction, right? And we talked about this in why I got cancer. Is, in my opinion, the reason I wound up going through cancer was course correction. Course correction meaning you're not getting there on your own. You need to be moving. You are going left when I need you to go right. And as much as I'm asking you to go right, you just keep walking in that other direction. And course correction comes when it's like, oh, this person's not going to listen. I need to now kick you down the stairs.
Yeah.
Right? So that's course correction. And the thing that we don't understand and what we're actually here in this world to do is as a species, not as I'm an American, you're a European, you're from Asia, you're from Africa, you're from China, you're from Canada. We are not separated by borders, beliefs, and ideals.
Right.
We put those things there to create that separation. Did I put those there? Did you put those there? Did any of us put any of that there?
No, it was programmed into us by
Who
limiting
put
belief.
that there? They did.
Yeah.
The bad guys.
Yeah.
The elitists said, hey, there's this line. You stay over there, we stay over here. Hey, here's this religion. Believe this religion or I'm going to murder you.
Yeah.
Right?
Literally.
Literally. Oh, here's another religion for us to believe so we can make sure that we don't all come together in the same belief system, right? Here's 10 different religions, 12, 15, 30, 50. Here's 1 million religions for you people. If you don't, and everyone who belongs to a specific religion becomes absolute. And already the job is done there. If you talk to any Catholic, Christian, Jew, Muslim, any of which are the major world religions, right, which are all branching from Abraham. If you talk to their absolutism, there is insane.
Yeah.
The absolutism is insane to the point and a degree that people will be able to say that no matter my doings in this world, my belief system is what sets me free.
And they're not. It's just, they're so trapped within a dark hole that they can't even see a way out.
It's so brazenly bizarre to me. Like, number one, join the religion, study, cultivate. The crazy thing, and you know this about me, I probably know more about the Bible than most rabbis and priests.
Correct.
Like, in another arena
Yeah.
of degree, right? And again, I'm really not trying to be egotistical about it, but my knowledge of the Bible, Old and New Testament, is on another level compared to the rabbis and to the priests that are out there disseminating this information. I mean, I know because I've sat down with so many different rabbis and I've sat down with so many different priests and I've picked their brains and I've talked to them and you're like, man, this person doesn't even understand the fundamentals of the teachings. And again, that's extremely arrogant to say, but at the same time, it's like, for me, you imagine, like, it's mind-blowing to come to that conclusion of like, this is the person that's disseminating the information. This is the person that's running the country. All of these people are moronic. And I'm not saying all, I'm not trying to be absolute, but the chances of you running into somebody with a high level of intelligence around what they're doing is extremely low.
It is.
The chance of running into someone with a high level of intelligence around what they're doing is very low, from my personal experience. People are not fact-checking. Even for me, I'm constantly doubting myself all the time in my information, but I would say that I'm probably, out of anyone that I know or meet, I am doing more research and reading than just about anybody that I know.
I would agree with that.
Tonight when you get home from work, instead of fucking TikToking yourself to death, go on the Congress's website. Go read the archive.com. Go read the that's the last thing they want you doing.
Yeah.
Or you could even, if you want to look at it this way, you could take out a piece of paper and physically look, because a lot of people are visual. So if you take out a piece of paper and you see what you do on a regular basis, like I like to watch TV, I like to watch this program, I'm on social media, I like to do this, and this, right? Or like if you write down a piece of paper, like what do I identify? How do I identify myself? And you look at it from a broader point of view, you will see exactly what box that you're being put in and what box you allow yourself to be put in.
Yeah.
But if you are able to look at it at a broad point of view and be like, holy shit.
We need to be in a place where we're identifying as human beings.
Yeah. And they're taking that humanity away.
It's already off the table.
Yeah.
That's it. Like we need to understand that we are here as a species, a global unit, collective consciousness, one soul. This is the reality of things. Everything is anti that.
Yeah.
The church is anti that. Government is anti that. All establishments are anti that. All institutions are anti that. But what are we? Imagine the whole world came together in one unit and said, you know what? Let's work on let's work on space travel, right? Dude, we'd already be on the other end of the galaxy. We'd already be on the other end of the galaxy if the whole world was working together as a unit. Not, oh, they're getting further ahead of me. Let's sabotage their work. Let's breach their data. Let's send. This is the mentality of the world that we live in. It's not like let's work together and make something happen. It's like, no, I need to prevent you from getting there first. That's where we are
It's very
as a
sad.
species. That's where we are right now. Currently in our state, we are in a preventative state, meaning that I don't want you to have more or better than me.
Which is very selfish.
That's where we are currently.
Yeah.
That's where we are currently. We need to start getting into a place where, and this is the last thing I want to personally say here is that we were talking the other night and I was telling you about immigration, right? And I was saying that the issue isn't illegal immigration. The issue is immigration in itself, right? So let's just say that I wanted to come into the U.S. from Mexico. Good luck doing it legally, right?
Right.
Good luck. You're not going to have the time, effort, energy, monetary resource. It's just impossible.
It is.
If you want to become a legal citizen here, even you could be an amazing person, a great person. Why are you not allowed to become a citizen in this country? If all we need is a background check.
That's it.
This person is not associated with any kind of gangs or drugs or right, nothing. This person is just literally living their life. They want to come and get better education, have a better life for their children. Why are we not allowing that to happen?
Correct.
And I think that if the process for immigration was actually reasonable, we wouldn't have illegal immigration being such a problem that we have. The thing is like, let's build a wall. Or let's put more soldiers at the border, right? This is not solving this is just creating more separation, more distance, right?
Yeah.
Right now, currently as it stands, yes, there's endless amounts of illegal immigrants coming across the border. And the problem is and I was saying this to you the other night, is desperation breeds violence.
Yes, it does.
And the people that are coming across the borders are desperate.
Yeah.
Not only that, the good people coming across the borders are being forced to smuggle the contraband and the drugs by the bad guys who just walk across scot-free. Come and go clean as well. Why? Because they paid off the local politician and they get to just come and go. They have no expiration on their visas. They just get to come and go, and they use people as mules.
They do. And it's
The
very
good
sad.
people. And then the good people coming in get caught with the drugs, and what happens to them?
And those good people, if they don't do it,
And what choice do they have?
exactly, what choice?
If you don't carry these drugs across the border, I'm going to murder your children. guess I'm carrying those drugs across the board, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's exactly what it is.
it's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that, and we're not looking to, we still see those people as aliens, right? They're called aliens.
By definition, yes.
Yeah. We're still calling, they're not, we're all the species. There's no aliens here.
The separation is just insane.
This is why I'm half crazy. Because I know all of this information. It's all in here circulating. I have nowhere to vent it to. I have no one to talk to about it. And it's all just in here circulating all day. And that's why you see me losing my marbles. I really think that's why. Why am I walking around going, right? Yeah. Where is this coming from? It's because I'm walking around with a library of information inside of myself that I don't really have an outlet to share it with people, nor do I have a way to explain it and process the information. I have so much information inside of my head. You know, again, going back to that, just to finish my thoughts so I don't go too far off topic, we need to solve things. That's really what needs to happen. We need to solve a problem, not fix a problem. We need to stop creating problems in order to fix them.
Yeah.
Because that's what's really happening.
Or just slap a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah,
We'll fix it later.
Well, one of the things that happens frequently here, and I want to expose this real quick because this is not a conspiracy. So, with our state and federal taxes, we need to visually see that in action.
Yeah.
Otherwise, questions start coming up, right? So, where do we see it most commonly? Where do we see our tax dollars being used most commonly? Where you visually see it?
War.
Road work.
Oh, that's very minute.
But how many times? I just saw road work happening today.
Mm-hmm.
The city is cleaning up the streets. They're fixing the pipes under the ground, right?
Right.
Was anything wrong with the pipe in the first place? Actually, who runs the company that's fixing the pipe? Oh, the mayor does?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
People don't understand this.
They don't.
They really don't. And they'll look at it to some degree and say, oh, this is conspiracy. It's not conspiracy. The pipe was never broken. And the company that's fixing the broken pipe is literally owned by the governor or the mayor or the senator.
Mm-hmm. And then you got to ask yourself, who gave them that bid in the first place? How did they win that bid in the first place?
They gave it to themselves.
Exactly. And if it's under a certain dollar amount, then it won't be bid.
And guess what? Crazy enough, it just so happens that in the reality of things, changing that pipe that's broken under the street cost $10,000. But for whatever reason, it actually cost $175,000 to change that pipe.
Yeah.
This is happening.
Yeah.
Like real time. If you want to be crazy like me, the information is there. Not to go on weird websites and dark web and YouTube videos and no, I'm going to government websites. The same thing happened with me with people telling me that they use MindDat for mineralogy, and me saying, no, you need to go to the Mineralogy Society's website, not MindDat. Right? It's the same. It's the same concept. You need to go to the source of the information, not a secondary source or a third-party source, or even farther separated from that. You need to go to the source. The problem is that wherever the sources are, the information is actually created by consummate professionals who know terminology, who know the wording, and us. We can barely afford to make it through friggin' 6 hours of work before, how are we going to make it through 7 hours of reading that kind of material? And then not only that, picking up on the P's and Q's that are there, that have been set and established by those people so that they can get away with murder. It's right there in the text. It's just absolutely bizarre and brazen. And I really hope for this world that we get to a place where we at least start to read again, and not just, hey Siri, what is, hey Alexa, what is. The phones are listening to you always.
I know.
We are being monitored and listened to.
Okay, I found this on the web for what is Hey Alexa, what is the phones are listening to always. Check it out.
Case in point.
But dude, I have this disabled on my phone. I even have that disabled on my phone.
Did your phone do the recent update?
Maybe it recently updated, yeah.
Then it'll reset. I refuse to do like the past 10 updates.
Well, the thing is now if you don't do the update, your phone gets wonky.
Yeah, I know.
So they force you into doing it.
Yeah.
But I think really the point is that we need to get to a place at least where we can have conversations like this. And we need to educate ourselves and become more intelligent. Right now, people are not educating themselves. There's a lack of intelligence. The school systems are completely devoid of any real kind of content and information. We're learning outdated, and the curriculum is so outdated at this point. I mean, how we're not teaching consciousness to children, meditation to children, social awareness to children, right? That's what. No one. Where's the self-awareness at this point?
Nowhere.
It doesn't exist.
Right.
People's self-awareness is so low.
Yeah.
So low. For me, it's my number one pet peeve.
It really is. And it's so easy to like, being around you, I can tell when you're just like, oh, this person doesn't have awareness. The lack of self-awareness, you're just like, oh, come on. But you're also like in that state of mind where you're like, you see where they're at. You know what I mean? Like, you have that ability to also see people where they're at.
But to add to what you were saying, I think emotional intelligence needs to also rise. It needs to be increased.
It's very difficult to observe people on, because self-awareness has many levels to it. Mm-hmm. That's why we have chakra systems. That's why we have dimensions. That's why there's all of these things are telling us, hey, there's levels to this. Mm-hmm. And we don't need to expect everyone to be on the highest levels of whatever it is, but we do need to expect each other and hold each other accountable for growth. Mm-hmm. And we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. Instead, we're just trying to attack each other, maim each other, murder each other, slander, hate speech, all of it. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Not the opposite of that. Mm-mm. A teacher of mine told me this, a spiritual teacher many years ago said, one of the most, she said, if the devil is not coming for you, you're not on the right path. And it's something that's really hard to digest and process and understand, but at the same time, if things are just easy peasy and there's open doors everywhere you're going, something is off in your process. Mm-hmm. You need to be kicking doors down. It's so easy for us to judge everybody in everything. Even like yesterday. Think of that. I've already have several hours into thinking about that, by the way. And if you weren't there, I will never be able to explain that situation unless you were actually there, which you actually were there for that situation.
Yeah.
I handled that in the worst way I could have possibly handled that in. People don't know the situation and circumstance that we're there. So whoever's listening at this point, you don't know the circumstance. But the point isn't about what the actual circumstance was. The point is that I was presented with the perfect opportunity to show where I'm really at. Mm-hmm. And that gave me perspective to be like, dude, you're not on the level you think you're on. And I need that. I need to see that. I need to know that. But look at the test that they got to put in front of my face. You know what I mean? Can't you make it just a little bit easier?
No, because with you, nothing is going to be easier. For the easy stuff for you, you're just like, it's done within a blink of an eye. For the harder stuff, you're just like,
no, that was level 10.
Man, you're like, whoa.
That was a level 10 test.
Yeah. But it was the perfect one for you.
Yeah, no, it was. If you look at it and you look back at it and observe that, again, what I kept saying is this is the worst timing for this to happen,
Yeah.
And that should have been my indicator. I should have been able to connect the dots there and be like, oh, this is exactly the time. I didn't get there. Anyway, it's 2:40. Yeah, we got work to do. All right, love you.
Love you.